Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Brian, and for those of you who don't know me, I had a spiritual awakening 2.5 years ago and came to realize that you're just me in another form. And that's what this video is about, is how I know that. And how it would benefit you to know that. You don't have to take on these perspectives. It's your free will. You have the choice to perceive anything however you'd like to. That's kind of the beauty of reality, is you have the choice and the free will on how you look at everything. But there are perspectives that will help you feel better about yourself, feel better about life. And that's what I'm most interested in, is talking about ideas and perspectives that will empower you, that will expand you, that expand me, empower me. And so I'm here to talk about how we're all one and that unconditional love is the foundation of everything. Wouldn't it make more sense if there was nothing? I mean, just think about it. Think about it. Our universe, we know it has a beginning, according to our science, right? There was a beginning of the universe, some like 13.7 billion years ago, or whatever number they've put on it recently. And, but what was before the universe? What at a certain point exploded and everything in the universe just came into being? People don't like to think about that because they're like, I don't fucking know. Some people might just say God, and in my perspective, that's accurate. But I think it's just deeper than even that, because most people who will say that think that God is like this being up above, right? And that creation's down here and that they're separate. But from my perspective, the creator and the creation are one. See, the fact that there's anything, that anything exists at all, especially since we experience things as having a beginning and an ending. Like, this body has a beginning and an ending. It was born, it will die at a certain point. But does that mean I didn't exist before? Does it mean I won't exist after? You know, all these things seem to be up for interpretation or anyone's best guess. Or maybe you listen to near-death experience people talk, or maybe you're religious, or maybe you have a different perspective of the soul or something like that. But so many of us are just identified as this body, this person, this character who has a beginning and an end. And we feel like we're separate from everyone and everything else. And we feel like we lack, like there's limited resources and limited opportunities, and that it's survival of the fittest. And again, from my perspective, I don't think any of those things are true. I don't think we're separate at all. I don't think lack exists. I don't think we thrive under competition. I think we thrive with cooperation. Because there's anything at all, because we live in a universe that has a beginning and we assume it'll have an end, what is the eternal thing that produced a universe? because that's a real conversation that we should be having, that more people should be having. I know a lot of people just think about it maybe in their free time or maybe only a couple times in their life, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know, so I'm not even gonna bother with it because life here is chaotic and stressful." But that's why we have YouTube, and we have people who have spent many, many years studying these things, researching these things. And I have tried to listen to what all these different people are saying and come to my own perspective of it, because that's what I find most fascinating to talk about. And so there's this one eternal, infinite thing, and it has the ability to create universes. And so, yes, I'm talking about God, but I don't want you to think of God as like this being with form, like it's a God, a deity. Like, that's not what it is. Because form, meaning material, or what appears to be material, is not what has existed forever. What is creating with all the form is actually formless. What God is, what source is, I use God and source interchangeably, or all that is, or the all, or the absolute. All of these can be used. They're all talking about the same thing. It's the one infinite, eternal, formless source of all of existence, all reality. It's all that exists. All form is created by it. All form is designed by it. All form is made from it because it is the only thing that exists. It's not creating with something separate from itself. It doesn't have anything else to create with. It is all that exists. It's the only thing that exists. It has nothing else to create with. It's not God and a box of magic creating materials. And the creating materials are not God. That's not what it is. It's God creating with God's own essence. Everything that exists is made of God because God is the only thing that exists. See what I'm saying? It's formless, infinite, eternal awareness and intelligence. And it has always existed. It will always exist. It's the awareness of being. It is creation itself. And the important thing to understand here is that all sentience, all awareness of existing comes from that single source of sentience and awareness of existing, which means that my awareness, my sentience, my self-awareness, the fact that I know I exist, it is the same awareness of God that knows it exists. This is why in the Bible, the only time God says its name, it says, I am that I am. Meaning, when I say I am, that's the God presence in me. It's the God presence in you. When you say I am, that's the creative awareness that is in everything that knows that it exists. It is the sentience. It is the self-awareness. The I am or the I am presence is what sees through my eyes, is what sees through your eyes, is what sees through all eyes, anywhere in existence. The creation is not separate from the creator, they are one. The awareness or consciousness of the creator and the consciousness of the creation are one. And quantum physics has actually proven that all form, everything we call form, everything we call material, solid physical matter, isn't solid at all. It's all energy. It's all energy vibrating at a certain rate, and it all comes from a unified, singular source of formless, unmanifested energy. Quantum physics has also proven that until consciousness is present to observe energy, it is just formless. And as soon as consciousness is present to observe it, it comes into form. So really, nothing exists as far as like solid physical matter is concerned. Places don't exist. Other things don't exist until consciousness is actively in the moment creating it and experiencing it. So literally, all form comes from the same energy source. Our sciences has proven this. It's not just philosophy and spiritual stuff. It's science. Everything is energy. Everything is energy, and it comes from the same energy source. So when I say that you're me in another form, that's absolutely true. But so is this background, so is this phone, so is the water bottle I have here. Everything I've ever experienced or touched or played with or whatever, every person I've interacted with, they're all me in another form. It's all me in another form. You are me in another form. I am you in another form. I am you talking to you from a different perspective. And that's what it is. We are all one. And so why the fuck are we here? Why the fuck are we experiencing this universe? Why are we experiencing Earth? What are we doing here? Why, if we are the only thing that exists, why are we experiencing this place that is so very limited and heavy and emotional and filled with fear and doubt and violence and all these things? Why are we experiencing this? Why are things this way? Because why would me, the only thing that exists? And of course I say that jokingly a little bit. Why am I experiencing this? Why is Source, God, all that is, experiencing what it's like to be a human on Earth in this setup of things? And it's a good question. There's a lot of... It seems kind of cruel, doesn't it? It seems kind of cruel. But from what I have gathered, it only makes sense to me that the one infinite eternal source, the only thing that exists, it loves itself unconditionally. Because it wouldn't be a very wise source if it didn't, right? Like, why would it torture itself for no reason? Why would it, So I don't think that existence is cruel. I don't think that there's a separate power called evil fighting source that's all love, fighting God that's all love. I don't think it's good and evil fighting each other. From what I have come to understand, is that God just is God. God doesn't need to do or experience anything to be itself. But in order for God to know itself, the only way it can know itself and understand itself is by experiencing the opposite. And the only way for it to experience its opposite, to experience polarity or contrast, positive and negative, is if it created a way for it to forget who it is, or at least a part of it. A part of it could have the opportunity to live a lifetime where it doesn't know who it is. And from there, things can get very interesting. Because until God created a system or experience for it to have that type of experience, it never could have known these parts of itself. And so when God goes into an experience, and understand, obviously, not all of God is going into an experience where it forgets itself, because God is everything. So there's always going to be a part of God that knows itself, a part of God that is conscious and aware of all that it is. But to have unique experiences, because why not? We're in eternity. We're always in eternity. We're never not in eternity. There was never a beginning. There was never an end. All we can do forever is have unique experiences. And the beautiful part is when God goes into an experience where it forgets itself, there is always a plan to remember itself. And all of the evil that we see, all the violence, all the unloving things that God is doing to itself unconsciously, the reason that those things even happen is because it doesn't know itself, because we don't know ourselves. Humanity does so many awful things and unloving things and has so much fear and worry and doubt and all these things is because of its own ignorance. Humanity is going through an evolution of consciousness. And we are at a point where it is time to start remembering who we are. To start remembering that everything can be forgiven, that everything can be redeemed, that everything can be healed. And it starts with healing our perception of reality. To stop thinking that we're separate, to realize that every time I hurt someone else, I really do hurt myself, because it's not a cruel existence. There are forces in play. When I step out of alignment with truth, when I harm another with my thoughts or with my actions, I suffer. Think about it. How often do you suffer with judgmental thoughts about others, about yourself? How often do you feel angry or upset or have emotions bubbling beneath the surface and you don't know why they're there? Our emotions are intelligently designed. They're a guidance system. They're feedback. They're information. They're telling us whether we're in alignment with love, with truth, or if we're out of alignment, if we're misperceiving something. Every time I'm in fear, I'm misperceiving reality. Every time I'm in anger, I'm misperceiving reality. Every time I'm in shame or guilt or grief or any of these things, I'm actually misperceiving reality. It doesn't mean that those emotions are wrong. They're just information. They're just feedback. And so it's important that we actually don't identify with our emotions. Don't become your emotions. Just sit with your emotions. Feel your emotions. See what they're trying to tell you. You're not the thoughts either. The thoughts are also energy. You're not the energy. You're manipulating the energy. You're using the energy. You are the consciousness. You are the sentience. You are the self-awareness that is observing. And how do I know this? Because if you actually just sit back neutrally and observe yourself. You're capable of observing the body. You're capable of observing the thoughts. They're just going without you even wanting them to. You're not the thoughts. You're not the emotions. You're the observer of them. And when we allow our emotions to control us, we're actually allowing something out, what we think of as outside of us, to control us. When we allow thoughts and emotions to take over and push us into doing things, when we get triggered and we just react emotionally, we react with the thoughts that are just pouring into our head in this triggered state of being. We're allowing patterned energy to control us, the infinite eternal awareness of being, which is why we have to understand that we are separate from the emotions. We are separate from the thoughts. We have to see ourselves from a higher perspective. You're not a human who has a soul. You are a soul having a temporary human experience, and you are not the body, because it's temporary. You exist before the body. You exist after the body. You're not the body. This is just a temporary experience. Who you are is much more than that. And so is everyone else. And when we understand that we all come from the same source, our sentience, our awareness is all the same. There's the one awareness, the one self, the one consciousness. That's what all of us are. And we are here to have a unique experiences and learn unique lessons about who we are that wouldn't be possible if we didn't forget who we were. And if we look back in history, I mean, for thousands of years, people have not known who they are. But there was always going to be a time when it was time for humanity to wake up, to see reality more clearly. And we are in those times right now. We are in those times where it is time where we are capable of perceiving things. What has actually happened is there's been a shift in consciousness from a lower range of frequencies to a little bit higher range of frequencies. But the low ones that we were at was actually the lowest range of frequencies that we can exist at, because everything's energy, everything is vibration and frequencies. We were at the lowest frequencies that were possible. And that's why you look back at history, you look back at the Dark Ages, you look back at the Crusades, you look back at all these different wars we've had, World War I, World War II, everything done out of ignorance. Because we hate each other, because we judge each other, because we think everyone else is the fucking problem. It's us. It's just us. It's not everyone else, it's just us. Our own ignorance of who we are, our own fear, creates all these things. But if you knew that we were all one, if you knew that you were eternal, if you knew that lack doesn't exist, because why? Because everything comes out of a formless, infinite field of energy. Abundance is all that exists. Lack doesn't exist. Separation doesn't exist. I'm connected to everyone and everything because we all come from the same energy field and the same consciousness. Nothing is separate. Nothing can be lacking. But I'm allowed to have the experience of separation if I want to. I'm allowed to have the experience of lack if I want to. But if I knew that I was infinite abundance, why would I choose to experience lack? It's a great question. I should ask myself more. If I knew that I'm connected to everyone, why would I ever be afraid that I was separate or afraid that I was alone? If I knew that Source loves itself unconditionally and doesn't do anything without great purpose and intention, then I can understand that my existence, that the existence of Brian, there's purpose to it. And there's purpose to you. And there's purpose to everyone and everything that exists and everything that happens, even things out of ignorance, even things that are so horrific. In the end, Source uses all of it to awaken itself, to remember, to heal. It uses everything for love, for wisdom, for understanding. There are higher perspectives to everything. And when we look for those higher perspectives and we zoom out a little bit and we stop just identifying as this little body and thinking that everything that happens is happening, like it's either good or bad or happening to me. What if everything's happening for you? What if, because Source loves itself unconditionally, it set up the perfect reality in which, even when it forgets who it is, everything is ultimately bringing you back to who you are. After all, you're here. You're here right now, watching this. Perhaps there's great purpose to that. Perhaps you are meant to see this today. Perhaps you are meant to start pondering the idea that your life hasn't happened to you, that the things you didn't like in your life happened to you. What if they happened for you? Because they made you who you are today. They brought you to who you are today. What did you learn from those things? Look back. All of us can look back at things that in the moment we thought were bad. And when we look back after some time, we say, wow, that brought me to the love of my life. That brought me to this better job. This brought me to this better situation. You know, letting that person go, as hard as it was actually good for me. Things like that. It's not happening to us. It's just our perspective. And that really is our power, is our perception of reality, our perception of ourselves. And when we start to take more loving perceptions based in wisdom, loving wisdom, our lives change, because ultimately everything is a reflection of the one self. We attract situations and people to reflect things to us that we're unaware of. And when we start to look at things like that and we realize everyone's just a reflection of me, what can I learn from it? We grow, we evolve, we move up in our life, and new things become possible for us because we're not staying stuck in the same cycles of thinking, the same energy cycles that attract a certain energy, because ultimately this is a law of the universe. What you give out energetically is what comes back to you. And so if we're putting out judgment or hatred or anger or shame or guilt or depression or any of these things, anxiety, whatever, we're getting that energy back. Which is why we need to heal our perceptions of ourselves, because the reason we feel any of those lower emotions is because we're misperceiving reality. We're not understanding how loving things really are. We're looking at things through a certain lens and certain beliefs that we took on when we didn't know who we were, but that doesn't make them true, because at any moment you could change it. Any moment you could take on a different perspective. And notice, just find something in your life, something that bothers you, that agitates you, that angers you, that makes you feel bad about yourself, and find a more loving perspective and understand that the perspective or belief that makes you feel bad is just as valid as the one that makes you feel good, and no one's stopping you from changing to the one that feels good. No one. I know people in my life who believe the same thing all the time, and every time they say it, it's like, you know, this judgmental thing about themselves or something, and they just say it over and over every time it comes up, and I'm like, why do you choose to believe that still? I could sit here and I could tell them, hey, what if you took this perspective? But they don't, and I'm like, why not? Who's telling you you have to keep that perspective? They think that because they have that perspective and they've had it for so long and that they feel so bad about it, that means it's true. But the bad feeling is actually telling them it's not true, and they believe it anyway because they don't understand yet. They don't understand that your perception, your beliefs on everything are your choice. You're the only one who can choose to believe them. No one can take that from you ever. No one can make you believe something else, especially when you know you have the choice. And now you know. So, no excuses. Ah, okay. This was fun. Please like, subscribe, things like that if you want to. If you think I'm a good reflection of you. And I love you unconditionally because you are me and I am you. I love you.